going?
Good. Did you guys' like fishing trip get canceled then, or what?
Yeah, we just bailed. It got really cold down here, all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm. So like, what's really cold for you, dude?
It's just windy, honestly, more than anything. So since we're off yaks, but let's see, it's only 55, so it's not actually that cold, but it's just super windy.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. If it's like super windy out, I'm not gonna try to be out on the kayak.
Yeah, I just get blown around the lake the whole time.
For real, dude. Well, what's your name? Column?
Callum, no
Callum.
worries.
Nah,
Yeah,
it's all cool. Well, I'm Wyatt, and shit, dude, we'll just like get right into it. So, just tell the people what you do, and we'll go from there.
heck yeah. Well, yeah, I'm Callum Sparrow. I'm down here in Central Texas. Um, mainly a fisherman, into fishing, but recently kind of started making my own baits and created a bait company, Cavetown Baits. And yeah, it's kind of been slow starting, but kind of picking up some speed and getting a little bit more time to make baits now. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we're going to focus on this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're doing something that I your bait, like the baits that you make, I haven't really seen anything quite like it. I don't think anybody's making like a craw really that big.
Right. Yeah.
So how did that come about?
That really, so the dweller, the idea for that kind of started, we were on a bite punching some really thick grass here on a local lake. We were punching mag drafts and citizens, kind of just your bigger 6 inch beast hook baits. And, those fish are definitely keyed in on shad, but when that bite kind of slowed down, we were just looking for ways to still put something in the grass that the fish might react to. And so the idea kind of slowly just developed of a big giant creature bait that would elicit some sort of reaction. Yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any around that you could show
Yeah,
off? Because yeah, they're freaking huge.
yeah. This is the original dweller. So it is 6.5 inches. I think somewhere around like 2.5 ounces or so, a little bit more than that rigged up. And then we also make the junior now. The junior is 5.25 inches. So side by side, you can kind of tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Even this one though is still what I would consider a big bait.
Mm-hmm.
You'd still have some guys nervous to throw it maybe, but I don't know, not too big for even I catch fish down to a pound on that one.
Yeah, I think it just like has well, it's something they haven't seen before and like drawing power just because of the size of it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Um, yeah, because normally, if you're punching, you're using like these small little punch baits. Maybe you're using like a rage craw or whatever it may be.
Right.
So you're using something maybe like that, and now you guys are using 6-inch baits to punch. So
Yeah.
how do you rig that up?
The big one is on an A-dot beast hook.
Mm-hmm.
I have a rigging video that is somewhere on my page that people can check out. The smaller one is on a 4-aught beast hook, and there's another hook that owner makes that I sometimes use on the smaller one. And then I'm usually running anywhere from 3/4 ounce to a 2 ounce punch weight on there. Um, I do kind of some things with like the weight stops. I'll put a couple in front of the weight and then one below it so that my knot's not getting like smushed by a
Mm-hmm.
giant 2 ounce weight all day. Yeah, and then other than that, sometimes a belly weighted hook on the bigger one just to drag it really, really slow, somewhere deep. I'll use like a 3/4 ounce 8/aught beast hook. And then we also have a couple, sold most of them, but we have the Ike's Monster Jig, and that's a 10-aught VMC hook behind a big, I think 1.5 ounce weight, like jig head, and that's a really cool way to rig these guys, but definitely beefs them up even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I see a picture of that of Ike's big old monster jig or whatever, and then your guys' bait as a trailer. I thought that was like pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, no, that's a giant profile for sure. I've thrown it a little bit, but I tend to just rather the kind of toned down normal sized dweller with a punch weight.
Mm-hmm. And so that's mainly how you guys are fishing it. That is just like as like a punch rig.
Yeah, so it was designed like punching grass, and I won't lie, I punch the smaller one more often than the big one, but more so than punching, I'm flipping both of them just at cover.
Mm-hmm.
I fish rivers a lot, and they have tons of sunken trees and um, things like that, thick lilies, and so I'm usually kind of just punching or flipping at the edges of a heavy cover, and sometimes deep in the trees. But yeah,
Mm-hmm. What's your rod reel and line setup for that?
for both of them, you definitely want a real stout rod. Um, when I'm flipping, tight, kind of like close quarters stuff on the river, I like a rod with a shorter handle. But other than that, I like a real big handle, a beefy rod. So for the big dweller, I'm using a Leviathan, soft swim heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and for the um, for the Dweller Junior, I use an iRod Bubs punch rod, which I think is rated up to like 2 ounces, but I throw a little bit. I throw Citizens and stuff on that rod. That's the one with kind of a shorter handle that is sometimes nice when I'm flipping a whole lot, just like real short casts. And then I'm using usually just a Tatula 200. On my bigger setup, I have a Baits Goat Swim. Both of those are just kind of higher speed. You want to be able to pick up line when you get bit, and then definitely keep the line real tight once you have them pinned. Line wise, I'm using a Braze X, usually 17 to 20 pound.
Mm-hmm.
20 pound if I'm punching or flipping at anything really thick. Um, and then yeah, San Diego Jam Knot. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's about it. Yeah,
Dude, that.
you really just need something stout, and you need a
Mm-hmm.
fast gear ratio to be able to pick up the line.
Yeah, yeah. You want something like fast and then has like a lot of backbone to it, so you can
Right.
set the hook on that. Um, Dude, the San Diego Jam, my opinion, it's like the best knot out there.
Oh yeah. Once I learned that one, I knock on wood, have had some good luck with it. But
Yeah, yeah. I use that for like all of my like fluoro or like mono, and then mainly just doing like a polymer knot for braid.
yeah, same here. Sometimes I'll still tie the jam knot on braid just for extra kind of confidence, but the Palomar has never really failed either.
Mm-hmm. So I haven't had one of your baits. I haven't had one in my hands. So do you have like a hook slot in that to help like drive
Yeah,
that hook through?
yeah. So we actually have two hook slots in both of the sizes of the dweller. So the smaller one might be a little bit easier to see. So on top of it, there's kind of like a little hook channel
Mm-hmm.
for the hook point to sit in. That's maybe an eighth of an inch deep. It's deep enough where it's gonna still slide through thick grass, but then once they bite on it, the hook point kind of becomes exposed. Then on the
Mm-hmm.
bottom, there's a really thick or really kind of deep hook slot that spans the whole length of the hook shank, and so it lets once you're hooked up, it lets the bait kind of get out of the way, um, and the fish. I have had really good luck once I have a fish hooked up on the beast hooks. I have had really good luck getting them landed. You just have to be able to hook up on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's your hook set like for that? Is it gonna be kind of like a citizen where you give it like maybe a second or two and then you give them the beans?
Yeah, I usually kind of take all the slack out of my line while I'm testing the bite. So if I feel like a real good thump, I'll just take all the slack out and swing pretty quick. But if I feel like a tick, or if if you get a bite and it's coming towards you and you're not so sure if it's going to the side, I'll usually kind of crank down and reel check them, get the line tight, and then it's just lean back, pretty hard hook set. I'm on a kayak a lot of the time standing, and so I hook set downwards to the side. But either way, you want to point your rod right at the fish, um, almost leaning forward. That way, when you lean back, you get all the leverage you can. I think some guys like are already leaning back when they swing, and their rod is already at 8 o'clock, and so they only have so much room to keep leaning and drive the hook. You need to have all of the kind of slack out of your whole system, including the rod. So I like to point the rod at my bait when I get bit, and then either
Mm-hmm.
swing up or swing to the side.
Yeah. Well, that's where your faster gear ratio reel is gonna come in handy too. It's like so you pick that line up and get after it.
Definitely.
Um, with the pinchers on the bait, how are those designed? Are they designed to have a lot of action on the fall, or is it more subtle?
No, they flap pretty hard. Yeah, they flap pretty hard anytime you really move it. And then they have a whole bunch of like skirt material through the sides, so they have kind of some legs that dance around whenever you pause it, just to give it some secondary action. Um, but yeah, no, on the if you have on the junior, if you have like a 3/4 ounce weight or higher, and then on the full size, if you have an ounce or higher, that's both going to make the claws flap real hard on the way down. And then half ounce or 3/4 ounce for the respective sizes, sometimes that makes them fall a little bit softer and a whole lot slower. The claws kind of create some drag, and it makes them fall kind of like a parachute almost
Mm-hmm.
on the way down. So even though you're flipping something with a real heavy weight on it, it's going to sink a lot slower than a bait without claws that move a whole bunch. If they were just kind of streamlined, realistic claws, it would sink like a rock as soon as you flip anything.
Mm-hmm. Um, did it take a lot of like kind of experimenting? Because these are just made out of like soft plastic, right?
Right.
Did it take a lot of experimenting to get like your blend how you want it, so it's not too hard, not too soft, or good in between?
I've dealt with that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the smaller Dweller Junior definitely benefits from some softer plastic, but I got pretty close to start out with, so I just had kind of some minor tweaking with those baits.
Um, and then when you sell the baits, um, those coming in like a 1 pack, a 2 pack. How do those
They
come
both
when
come in
people get
two.
them?
Yeah, they both come in 2 packs, and so they don't come with hooks or anything. But I do carry all of that on the website as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those both come in 2 packs, and then we also offer a bundle pack, kind of like a variety pack, where you get one of each color. And so you could get like a junior variety pack that's going to get you 4 craws, um, one of each color. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have that as well for both sizes.
Um, do you kind of coordinate some of your like colors with different times of year, like kind of red in the spring, stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I've looked into that for sure, and what I found is it does change kind of across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to kind of check that out is go to a pond or a creek that you know has craws around you, kind of poke around for them, see what you see. But yeah, I do kind of track that and try to match it around here in my own water. I'm really just bouncing back and forth between, like you said, the red, kind of like the mud bug,
Mm-hmm.
the brown, reddish brown in the spring, into the summer, and then most other times of the year, and sometimes even still during those. Anytime I'm in real clear water, I use the Drilla color, which is just a kind of a dark green pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you just want it to blend in with the bottom, so that the fish really have to come check it out. Um, but yeah, that is a good point and something that people should definitely look into, kind of with all forage
Oh,
types that they're fishing.
for sure. Cause I know like even going around some of like my local lakes or ponds, and you see like craws in the water. You see like different craw parts on the bank from stuff eating
Right.
them. Like you'll see like browns and reds and blues and all of that different times of the year.
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. Something definitely that I think would help people kind of hone in on an even more finicky bite. If you need to just get the color dialed in to get those fish to react, it's definitely something to look at.
mm, um, what's the biggest bass that's been caught on you, or I guess fish in general that's been caught on your y'all's bait?
That'll be a catfish. So that's funny that you changed it to fish in general. Yeah, a absolutely ginormous catfish. It maxed my scale out at 35. It was in a pond I got to go to through work, which has some really big bass. Um, that was like one of the best, just like spots to test the durability and kind of the ability to punch, because it was just a pond covered in thick hydrilla. But no, I was actually just in like the deep pool of that and felt something just inhale the full size dweller. It took me about like 3 minutes to land it. But yeah, giant catfish. Bass wise, I'm trying to think of if we've caught a bigger one on the full size dweller or the dweller junior. I want to say it was okay. Yeah, it was a fish we were fishing at night at the mouth of Barton Creek. Oops, sorry, I dropped my phone. We were fishing at night at the mouth of Barton Creek downtown, and my buddy Thomas stuck like I think it was a 7.8 or a 7.11. I can't remember. It was somewhere up in the high sevens. Um, and yeah, that was like right at the beginning of us kind of making them and fishing them in Austin, and that was like one of the coolest kind of moments ever
Mm-hmm.
for me
No,
personally.
no, that's sweet. Was what kind of catfish was it, like a blue cat or a channel
Dude, I
or a
don't know.
flathead?
I could find the picture and send it to you later. If you'd be able to tell, I honestly don't fish for catfish enough to know.
Mm-hmm.
It had a huge gut on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was a flathead because I've caught some pretty big flatheads in the river. So I want to say it was a blue. Um, I'll send you a photo later. But yeah, it was like I don't know if they get huge when they're pregnant or if it was just gorging, but it was ginormous. I was lucky that it didn't break me off because I had my drag locked.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, like started pulling so hard that it straightened my rod towards it, and it started to pull me down the bank into the water. Like it wouldn't pop my knot or anything, and so I kind of fumbled into the water, got my ankles wet, and then loosened the drag. Or actually, I just opened the bail, got lucky and tired it out. But yeah, for a little bit. I thought I had like a state record bass on. I'd never caught a single catfish out of the pond, so
That's wild. I know, like the like those flatheads. You see people catch like big flatheads and stuff on swim baits all the time, and I think some people do like target them on like big soft swim baits and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, there was a dude in a float tube. I think it was on Swimbait Universe a while back. Um, I bet you'd find it if you search the word catfish or something. He was fishing with these other giant craws that used to get made, these giant soft plastic craws on a giant jig, and he was in one of those float tube where you have the flippers on,
Mm-hmm.
and caught he had a fish like over his shoulder. It had to be like 60 pounds. He said he caught that on artificial, which would be just wild.
Yeah, dude, that's insane. Um, that's a bucket list thing for me is try to catch a big catfish on on a lure, because I've only ever caught them on like you know
Right.
chicken livers and crap like that.
Yeah. No, that as I would expect. I've caught a few on swim baits, I guess, over the years, mainly on the river, but those catfish on the river are so much more like opportunistic than your typical like lake catfish or pond catfish that's kind of just waiting around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just found this video of the catfish. I'm seeing if I can send it over to you. But no, yeah, I think they would be really good baits, for the saltwater. I've had especially the junior, be a great redfish bait, or big black drum bait, or anything, on pylons. They just sink super nice, so they get a good reaction really out of any species. But I'm excited to see people start fishing them more, kind of around the states,
Mm-hmm.
see what other fish they catch with them.
Have you sent any like out overseas, like Australia, anything like that?
I have not. I've had people kind of ask me about it and hit me up, but I just haven't had the time to kind of look into what I would really need to do uh, to get those over there, how much it'll cost, but definitely something I should be doing. I think like the Barramundi guys, I've had like 3 or 4 reach out, and then one dude from France who chases muskie um, and pike and whatever else is over there. But no, I haven't shipped it overseas yet. We'll see if that's something that'll change this year, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be cool because like the Australian guys, like the Murray cod and the barramundi, that'd be super sick.
Mm-hmm. I just sent it to you.
Yeah,
It's
it's
about it was a video, so I tried to just screenshot what I could see, but it was like I said, maxed out. So something over 35 pounds.
it's a big ass fish, dude.
Yeah. I have like a size 13 foot, so it kind of scales it down. But I didn't even pick that thing up. I just unhooked it on the grass and rolled it back in the water.
Yeah. One thing. So I mean, one of the bad things about this podcast is I talk to all you cool guys, then I'm like, oh shit, now I need this bait. So I've been wanting to get like the smaller size. My biggest fear with that is the pinchers getting like bit off by like a little pike or something like that. Cause I'm up here in the
Yeah.
Midwest.
Yeah.
Do you could you? I thought I saw something where you sold like replacement pinchers.
Yeah, I do. Let me see. I'll grab one right here. So these are for the mini, but they come in kind of packs of four, if you will, but really two pairs. So they come in two packs like your craw would. So, if you bought a pack of these along with the craws, you'd have enough to replace each claw once.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that it takes a good little bit for them to come off. I use some tougher plastic. And then once you're fishing and getting bit, if you just check on your claws once in a while, if you catch it while it starts to rip, if you either glue or melt it back together, it can save you a ton more time on the same claw. But then, yeah, like that's a great point is we do have the replacement claws. So for all you guys up north or anywhere with kind of smaller, more, pinchy fish that are just going to come nip at it a lot before they get it all the way down, we do have those replacement claws, which make it a little bit easier. Somebody had sent me a study. It was done by some state agency. It wasn't in Texas, but something like Texas Parks and Wildlife did a study that, and it resulted in the fact that bass actually favor eating crawfish that only have one or zero pinchers left. So if they have the choice, they're gonna avoid the craw with two pinchers and go get the one with one. It's just a little bit less defense that the craw has that could hurt the bass, and so that was something that's interesting. And we've all probably caught some fish on a rage craw after you lost the claw and it was your last one, and you're like, I'm just gonna see what happens. At least for me, growing up, I kind of had the peace of mind that had happened to me enough times that I'll still fish a dweller with one claw for the rest of the day before I take my time and put the new claw in, and then get home and glue the shoulder back on or melt it back on, which I also have some videos about that on the page. If anyone needs to see kind of how it's done. But yeah, that is something that you can do. I also was talking with some guys recently, and we thought about, we could offer alternate styles of claws so that, if someone wanted one that didn't have a whole bunch of flapping action, but they wanted the more realistic bull bee craw, we could offer that. Or maybe we even looked at doing some sort of like a wedge tail that made it swim pretty different than your typical grub tail kind of style claws. And so we'll see where that kind of goes. But yeah, it's kind of a cool feature that I don't know how many other companies are offering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys just have like a very unique product just as well, and because you're taking kind of something that's conventional, such as like a craw, and then you're beefing it up, and I feel like that appeals a lot to like the swim bait guys that like to throw big stuff.
For sure. Yeah, and we've gotten that reaction. You mentioned the drawing power earlier. We really have gotten that reaction back out of these fish that have now kind of been written off as too smart for a typical glide bait. Or if they are going to eat a glide, it has to be like the most perfect conditions. The day has to set up perfectly. Storm, the moon has to be right. Like, super windy, just for these real smart fish to get tricked on anything with trebles. And so we've actually seen some of those fish, like I said, that I'd written off, come around and react to these big sized dwellers, just like they did to a glide way back in the day. And so that's been super cool to see.
Mm. Yeah, and it seems like you're into swim bait fishing. You mentioned, throwing citizens, kind of throwing them in a unique way with punching them. So let's kind of get into how you got into fishing and then swim baits.
Yeah, I've been into fishing really as long as I can remember. Probably like you've heard a million times from other guys. Started off with like a Barbie rod, like or Spider-Man rod, whatever it was back in the day. Going to like a family friend's ranch or the neighborhood pond, and then we'd go on camping trips growing up. And I would always just instantly, as soon as we pulled in, just take my rod and bike and go find the nearest, river, creek, pond, whatever it was, and just fish the whole weekend. Had a neighbor that once I was like a teenager, we had like this little golf cart for hunting, that we kept at the house, and he was just outside the neighborhood, and so my parents would let me like ride in the ditch to his house. I would go fish it, um, and that I mean there was super small fish, but it was really addicting because you could catch like 90 in a day on the little ribbit frog. Or I mean I caught a couple of bass dangling a treble hook over the dock there. Like they were that dumb. But of course that kind of creates the strongest addiction whenever you really just get to go hammer fish over and over. Um, that transitioned into once we got our licenses, some buddies and I started hitting creeks and rivers around on kayaks, and we'd go on family trips, once a year to this river house and always go fish there. Um, Also, once I got older, my dad started going on the coast more, so I'm kind of been into like redfish fishing, speckled trout fishing, your normal Texas coastal stuff. Never anything too deep sea. And then yeah, ever since I went to college, and I've also heard like a lot of guys come on here and say they didn't keep up with fishing through their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Life kind of happens, but I've gotten back into it, and ever since then, it's been the obsession with just breaking my PB. Um, I'm always out fishing a big bait, pretty much 99% of the time, trying to catch the biggest fish that I ever have. And so, yeah, that's kind of what it's turned into. I'm kind of ate up with it. That's all I really do on my free time is either make baits or go fish.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of bait makers say too. Is like, oh well, I'm doing this now, so I don't have like a ton of time to fish. So it's
Yep.
this balancing act.
Yeah, I've recently gotten some help, which has been awesome. A local college kid reached out, um, on Instagram, and was just like, he first was just asking about the baits and if I ever needed help, like testing them, fishing them, just some questions. And then um, he reached out again and was just like, also, like, if you ever need help, doing anything, I had a job fall through, and looking for something to do, stay busy. And that has been the biggest game changer, has been my buddy Tanner helping me out and just helping me kind of. We haven't gotten too deep into the production side of it yet. I've just been kind of catching him up with everything.
Mm-hmm.
But here this year, it'll help me really hit the production side hard, and you know continue building some of these relationships with shops, get more baits out to the guys that I have testing them in all the different colors rather than just a couple at a time. And yeah, like I said, just step up the production, which I'm very excited for. But no, it does take up a lot of time, and unfortunately, that takes away from fishing time sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of
Yeah,
part of it.
yeah, because you're down in Texas. There's that one shop down there. The
Tackle Shack.
tackle shack. Yeah, like
Oh
literally.
yeah,
Uh, how far away is that from you? Because I know they do a bunch of swim bait and big bait
yeah.
stuff.
They're not too far. They're like 2.5 hours southeast down in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're actually, and I don't know how public it is, but I know that they are opening something closer up this way here pretty soon, and so that'll be real close on my daily commute. Um, I believe on my way to work, which is very far, but still in the Austin area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that'll be pretty cool. I've talked with them a little bit, but haven't kind of solidified any sort of deals to get my baits in their shop. But super cool guys. Anthony's super cool, and I know he does a lot for the community here in Texas, just with getting
Mm-hmm.
everybody together. I got some friends that are always going down to his events. I just never seem to have the time as of right now.
I'm in the same boat. Like between trying to do like all my own stuff, podcast, whatever. And right now we have like freaking 15 inches of ice on the water. I'm not really doing anything right now. I did go out.
Yeah.
Did go out yesterday. I worked some
Oh yeah.
overtime. Me and my buddy went out, and it was like fucking 5 degrees outside.
Did you catch any?
We got a couple like bluegill bites off of like so we got like a lot of like big hills and cliffs and granite like
Yeah.
cliffs, stuff like that. So we were kind of off. Um, we were kind of off a point, and we were fishing it. It was about it kind of varied between like 5 to 10 feet, and I was just like jigging a couple off the bottom, and there must have been bluegill or whatever because I just got a couple little bites, but
Gotcha.
didn't connect. And by the time we were done, we just had freaking snot sickles like
Oh
coming down
no.
our mustaches. I was like,
Yeah. No, I heard you on I was listening to one of your other episodes where you were saying you haven't really ice fished all that much, or you don't have your own gear, so you only go with buddies.
mm-hmm.
That's funny that you ended up going since then.
Yeah. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of it because you just sit out there,
Yeah.
just freezing your buns off. And my buddy was like, he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna bring the shack out. We'll just make this a quick trip.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So.
I went ice fishing probably 10 or 12 years ago. I was way younger. We went up to Wyoming with a friend, and yeah, I'm from England. Like originally, that's where my family's from. That's where I was born. But I grew up in Texas, and I'm not too. I don't do too good in the cold, and so that was. But we did have the shack, and so once we were in there, it was different. But yeah, being out like in 4 or 5 degree temp, with not that much of an insane kind of setup on, it was pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I go skiing, it's 40 degrees out. Like my hands and fingers, or my fingers and toes go numb instantly. Like I have no chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we were going along the lake, and we were popping holes, and we put the flasher down. He has a Markham flasher, and so
Yeah,
it's like, all right, we're at this much feet of water, and we're looking. It's like, all right, we're not seeing anything. Move on, and just kept doing that until we found fish. That's kind of the way to do it, in my opinion. That's kind of fits my style more. I like to move around and do stuff versus just.
yeah,
It's like, well, we're gonna pop a hole and we'll just wait for a school to move in or move through.
for sure. No, I'm normally kind of a fish on the faster side as well. Don't have the best patience. That's why
Yeah.
I haven't caught all that many catfish or anything like that. And coast fishing was cool, but we never did like the real skinny water where you're always sight fishing. We did sometimes, but it was mostly just like finding fish with a bobber and either an artificial or like a live shrimp or croaker or something. And it's just too slow for me. The fight's awesome, but I like picking apart structure and kind of creating angles and skipping up undercover and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, well, the cool thing is, so like yesterday, the lake we went out to, it's one of my favorite lakes to fish, and so, just kind of having that, flasher and seeing the depths and seeing everything like that. It's like, all right, it gives me more of an idea when I'm out on my kayak, stuff like that, because I
Yeah,
don't have any electronics or anything.
right. No, yeah, definitely. It's nice to. I've gotten out on some like local lakes with my buddy Jared, and he's kind of shown me the bottom on graphs and definitely gives you some context. Like, oh, that's why I've gotten bit over here and not there, or oh, like that's why I've never ever gotten bit over here is because it's just no man land. Like, there's no structure change in depth at all, and you didn't realize you're just fishing a complete flat. Um, so yeah, like you said, that's definitely good to pick up on those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we might go out tomorrow. I'm not sure. I
You got to do it.
yeah, it's
Can't catch
that's
them if you don't go.
yeah, it's the only fishing I'll probably get in here for until maybe April. So
Oh gosh.
yeah,
Is it like just getting colder, or just getting colder?
we do. It's been kind of weird because like kind of it's just now
Like you're
starting to
going
get
into the freeze.
yeah, pretty much. Like we've had like the lake that we were fishing at completely because there was open spots like around the marina and stuff like that. So like after Christmas is when it fully kind of froze in and the whole lake froze in. And
Gotcha.
now we have 15, 18 inches of ice. You can drive a pickup out on it,
Yeah.
which is just insane.
Yeah.
So,
Seriously, that
um,
is scary.
yeah.
Especially on any sort of river system. I heard you mention like there's current, so the ice isn't super consistent. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that was the other guy, but like that's crazy. I wouldn't
Yeah.
do it on anything with current.
Yeah. I wouldn't drive. A lot of people do that though. Like on the river, people will drive their pickup out and have their
I mean,
uh
if it's really, really thick, I get it, but
yeah,
gosh,
yeah,
that's
they'll have their big ice castles out, and it's practically a freaking camper on the ice.
yeah,
Um, but yeah,
that's
I think we're
crazy.
gonna try it tomorrow. I've seen a lot of people around me pulling lake trout through the ice at the two spots where they're at. So that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be
Um,
super cool. That'd be a good fight.
yeah, that'd be really sick. It's just they're just so deep. You'd have to move around and try to find some of that structure of where they'd be at. But some
Right.
people around here just got that dialed in.
Yeah, looking at topo maps will always help that too. I do a lot of that since I don't really run too many electronics either. I do a lot of like finding humps and holes in my lakes, which there's usually always rock piles in the holes, and so just yeah, topo maps are definitely something to look at
Mm-hmm.
before you go out.
Yeah, that's what I like to do a lot as well. I look at a topo map and then just kind of make a game plan from there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our lakes out here do get pretty freaking deep, and there'll be a lot of steep transitions. So there's definitely lots of cool places out here to go around and find stuff. My one of my buddies just moved out here, so we're gonna hit it hard.
Heck yeah,
Um,
that'll be cool.
yeah, so there's a lot of fly fishing out here, and so that's what he's into. But he's like, well, he's like, I hear you talk all the time about BFS and swim baits. So I think I'm gonna try that, and um, I haven't sent him a picture of this new lure that I got yet, but this spring we're gonna go to a lake that has a lot of bass in it and pike and bigger trout or whatever. And I just got this glide bait in the mail yesterday.
Oh heck yeah,
Yeah, so it's Hallelujah Lures. They're 8-inch trout
dude,
glides.
that's nice. That has some good paint on it.
Yeah, Nick is pretty freaking dialed in on his trout patterns and his bluegill patterns too. Yeah, I'm super
Heck yeah,
excited to throw this.
that'll be awesome. What
Yeah.
setup are you gonna run on it?
So I just got my one swim bait rod. It's a 7-Eleven. It's moderate fast. It throws. It's rated for like 1 to 4 ounces. So this falls right into there. And like once you get it more into swim baits, like if I first got a swim bait, I'd be like, this thing's freaking huge.
Oh
But
yeah,
now it's like, oh, it's a 8-inch glide bait. It's like that's really not that big, dude. It's like
no,
if we're trout fishing, we're catching trout this size, and a bass can easily get this in its mouth.
for sure. Oh, that's snack size for that's like a juvie trout for a bass.
Mm-hmm.
Anything like 6 to 10 inches is like small. That yeah, bass will eat a 14-inch trout all day. A big, like a DD bass will all
Mm-hmm.
day. That's really not even that huge. Because excuse me, trout have such like a thick slime coat that if they eat those things head first, it is like the easiest meal for them. Just
Mm-hmm.
that they get them, they usually go swim up in front of them and wait and ambush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of pike that I've caught on like big glides have been
Hmm.
like them T-boning it though, because I
Oh
think they
yeah,
like to grab and just
they want
hold
to
on.
kill that thing and just
Y-
thrash it.
Yeah. Um.
Gar, which I have like huge spotted and long nosed gar down here, and they're the same way. They could come and just tail shot it or T-bone it. It's the same fish, really. Like if you see a video, you could figure eight a gar. The mouth is just a teeny bit different, but like everything from the eyes back looks identical to a huge muskie. Um, it's called the muskie of the south for some guys, but it's a super cool. I purposefully get my bait away from them every time, just
Mm-hmm.
because they're so slimy and stinky. They'll actually like ruin your net. Um, and they're not as like prized, I would say, as like catching a huge muskie. So you're not gonna get any cred. You're gonna ruin a net. You're gonna smell like shit for a while, and you're probably gonna break off most baits. Um, if you let them hook up, and so they just roll. Even once you net them, they're just gonna keep rolling. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for for all reasons above, I typically just strip my bait away. But they'll come all the way up to the tip of my boat, and I'll get some cool videos of them like swirling. Um, Sometimes they come up and slap their tail and make a big splash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been in the kayak throwing 6-inch citizen, and I got a big tandem kayak, so my girlfriend was with me, and I was pulling the citizen out of the water, and a bass like tried to eat it as it was coming out of the water, and just splashed my girlfriend, and she got all mad, and
Oh,
I was like,
that's crazy.
it's like I'm sorry. It's like that was so. I was like, that was so cool. You gotta
Yeah,
admit that was like freaking awesome.
dude. So the I have a dweller hanging like right there. If you
Mhm.
could see it. That was the first dweller that ever caught a fish, and it was one of the first trips out with it. I think the second time we ever went fishing with it, and I we were like the first bend on the creek. It's kind of a really good creek to fish. It's just hard to get to. But we were catching glide bait fish almost every cast, and you could see them and pitch at them, and they bite like they turn and just kill it. And so, for me personally, nowadays, if I can get bit on a glide, I love to, because some of these Texas fish have gotten smarter to them, and so anytime I can find fish that are kind of dumb to a glide, I'll kind of stick with them until they're not. Um, so we were fishing glides all day. We were probably like 20 fish in, a couple hours in. The reason I was sticking with the glide is because they wouldn't stop eating it. Um, and I saw this like pack of five fish cruising. The biggest one was maybe like 6 or 7 pounds, and was what I thought. And I pitched the glide at it. A pretty big one swerves right on it, hooks up, and I'm with my buddy Thomas. I'm like, Thomas, there's a group of fish, and they're all following the bass I'm fighting in.
Mhm.
They're kind of staying with it, and so I tell him to cast at it, and he does, and then he hooks up like right away, and he's fishing like a KGB legend. I think I had a, a toxic mini trucha glide,
Mhm.
and so we're both leaned back on a glide bait fish, and then you set your rods down kind of facing the tip of your kayak whenever you're in between switching baits. So my dweller was dangling, and that rod started getting like dragged out of the boat, and I thought Thomas must have snagged it with either his bait or his fish that he hooked up on. So I tried to tell him to chill, and I went to pick up the rod, and that original big fish that I saw had eaten the dweller and fully hooked itself. And so I had like a 3.5, 4 pounder on a glide bait in my left hand. I'm picking up this rod that has like a 6.5, 7 pounder on my right hand. I shook the glide bait fish off, like realized Thomas isn't snagged on me, so he lands his real quick. We like both the little fish go, and then we got some photos of the bigger fish. But that was just like a crazy one where the dweller was dangling, like it probably was hardly even in the water. Like the water level maybe was like right here, and the claws were touching. and it locked in. It saw something moving while its buddies were getting meals, and it was just like, "I'm gonna eat that," and
Mm-hmm.
went up and killed it, like right at the edge of my boat. It was the only time anything that crazy has honestly happened to me, like in a fish catch.
Yeah, that's wild, dude. Um, with you shared something really interesting on your profile the other day about these new, was it like Australian crawfish that are like in
Oh
some of these
yeah,
Texas lakes that are got invaded or are
yep,
invasive. Yeah.
yeah. No, that is super funny to see. So, funny connection with that species of craw was when I was first drawing the dweller. I bet I could find it right there. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna go grab it. So in the original sketches of the dweller, I had actually printed out a picture of a crawfish, and it was the Australian red claw crawfish. Was the one that I went with. Just kind of had like the right ratios of body to claw and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it was life size, so it was 6.5 inches. So that was like the first mock up of the dweller, where you can see that it didn't even have flapping claws. Like that was when I was thinking I was going to go more realistic wise. And I was fitting it to the ADOT beast hook, as you can kind of see. But yeah, just funny connection is that happened to be the exact species of craw that I started the dweller on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, now I found out that they're actually invading Texas water bodies, and I didn't look too much into it. So I'm not quite sure how they got here or whatever, but I'm sure it was just people stocking their ponds or maybe having them as pets and releasing them, like
Mm-hmm.
happens with reptiles. But I would think that's more probably fishermen doing that,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't blame them, and I'm not mad about either. We'll see, we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I gotta go check something out real quick.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, I think like the thing is though, man, is that like every like freaking lake in the country practically has craws in it. I know around me there's a ton of them. So it's
Same
like,
here.
yeah, why wouldn't you try to like, throw something a little bigger, because you'll see huge craws like around here.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think it's kind of tapped into enough as like let's throw it's not an unrealistic size craw. It's just a full grown big species of crawfish. Um, I would say most lakes, like you said, get craws at least as big as the Dweller Junior, if not bigger. And yeah, the bass are not scared to eat them. They eat 11-inch gizzard shad, so they're definitely going to eat a 6-inch crawfish. If you look back into kind of like the history of California big bass fishing back in the late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, um, a lot of those guys were fishing with big live crawdads, or some of it even had like some really crude rubber crawfish that they were just jigging or trolling around the lakes. And those were responsible for tons of high teeners. I want to say there was a fish over 20 caught on a craw, uh, by Krupe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's The Pursuit of Giant Bass, and um, I'm blanking on the Sow Belly. Both of those books
Mm-hmm.
kind of tap into that, and they both mention crawfish back in the day. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, there's no reason why it shouldn't be something that guys kind of think about and try out. But I guess maybe no one's thought of making it.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I got both those books like on my bookshelf. In Pursuit of Giant Bass is it's a super technical book. It's a little bit difficult to read just because
Yeah.
it's not entertainment. It's a lot of information coming at you.
Right.
But yeah, mentions the same thing. Mentions like how they do like their craw rigging setup, where they're like double anchoring or some weird shit that they're doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I remember that part. Yeah, they double anchor the boat, and then they'll lift one of them to like pivot the boat onto the deeper let. Yeah, that was all kind of weird. Nowadays, you just power pull down.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
usually
exactly.
I usually have a stakeout pole or an anchor if I'm dragging the dweller, but I'm usually looking for fish, not really waiting for them to come find my bait. Um, in most cases.
Yeah, when I'm kayak fishing, usually like here in the Midwest, we get a lot of wind, so usually just having wind just kind of drift me, and I'll just corrective like
Yeah,
position myself with my paddle. But usually I'm just kind of drifting along the bank and fishing
with the
structure
wind.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's worked pretty good for me. And you're fishing lots of different kinds of cover as you're going along, from like kind of shallow with a lot of reeds or trees in the water or granite cliffs, stuff like that. So you get to fish a lot of different things.
yeah.
Um, but I would agree that like a craw is like an underutilized kind of a forage if you're not throwing you know conventional, because even out here, um, one of my buddies came out and we were trout fishing, and I was like, dude, and he fly fishes, and I was like, dude, I was like, throw like a craw pattern or like a woolly bugger or something like that, because there's a ton of craws in here. It's underutilized forage because these trout will eat those craws.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they'll break even the trout that seem too small to eat a craw. They'll go grab them and shake them until the claw falls off. Then they'll go grab the other claw, rip it off, eat those, and then go find the defenseless crawfish. There's unlimited, really cool underwater footage of bass eating crawfish, and it's kind of cool to see the different ways. They usually either grab them just by the pinchers, usually around bed season, and they'll either move them or they'll try and rip the pinchers off. And the only other way that I've seen them eat them is they go up to their tail first and just inhale the whole thing. They use that kind of like vacuum that their largemouth creates. Um, and yeah, those videos are super cool.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of back to making the craw. So is your process, are you like injecting like plastic into a mold that you made?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Did that take a while for you to kind of get that mold dialed in, or did you have help with that?
I got help with the mold, and we got really lucky that one of like the first three options, not options, one of the first three kind of revisions, ended up being the one that worked out really well. Um, but as far as like learning the soft plastic side of things and getting that up and running, it was all kind of a mystery to me, and so I was just teaching myself along the way. Still learning. Definitely still don't have it all the way dialed in, but getting better. And you learn by making a lot of mistakes. So made a lot of baits that didn't end up getting fished or getting sold or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. You ever burned your plastisol in the microwave or whatever?
Definitely.
I've seen some videos where people like really like burn their plastisol and they
Oh,
make just a,
definitely.
I don't
It's
know,
awful.
whatever it is. Yeah, they're like, it smells terrible in here.
Oh yeah, it's awful. I use like a low odor plastic, but yeah, that's still awful when you burn it. But we got that figured out. I don't let that happen anymore. I'm usually using pots with stirrers in them now, and so they don't get over like 420 degrees anymore.
Well, that's good. Do you have? Because I noticed, you showed the drawing and you got the drawings in the background on your bulletin board. Do you got any other baits kind of in the works right now?
Yeah, we have a couple more. We have a couple weedless soft glide baits that a lot of guys are really excited for. One of them's getting a lot closer. It's called the Tetra. Um, that's built around the 10-aught beast hook. Um, Gonna be a really cool kind of choppy style weedless glide bait that you want to get into cover and just kind of chop it around where the only other swim baits you could get back there is maybe like a paddle tail or a wedge tail. That's gonna either have to just sink and sit still, or it's gonna have to come straight towards you. So this gives you kind of an option to get something deep in the cover under a dock and let it kind of hang out there and chop around, be in the strike zone a little bit longer. And so this is kind of an old version, but that is what the Tetra looks like. It's a
Mm-hmm.
weedless soft glide. This one has the 8-aught in it right now, so you can see the hook is almost like invisible. Um, yeah, so really cool thing we have coming there. We have another weedless glide that kind of takes the other side, um, the kind of the other approach to the swim style. It's more methodical, and it'll be fished a little bit deeper. And then we have a couple more ideas. We have like some creature baits coming. We have a topwater mouse that we're working on, but um, those ones are a little ways out before they'll be released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of the soft glides are pretty popular, and that's kind of a new approach to it with using beast hook and having it weedless versus having like a harness with the treble coming off of it.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be really cool. It has been cool so far, just being able to get these things like way up under a tree and ripping them over tree limbs, through lily pads, and not worrying at all about spooking your spot and having to go unsnag it before you ever even made a good cast.
Mm-hmm. Nah, that's super cool, dude. Um, One thing I forgot. Have you had like a lot of the smallie guys catch on your dweller or the smaller one?
No, I haven't had too many guys. I don't even think fish for him yet with the Dweller, or with the Dweller Junior. The Junior, I want to say, came out towards the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of guys have been holding out till spring. I'm just getting a lot of videos kind of starting to ramp up this month, getting sent in. But no, I haven't seen a smallie get landed yet. I know there are some guys who, I don't want to say are trying to hide it, but they definitely have mentioned like they're trying to keep this bait for themselves before they tell all their buddies about it. So we'll see how that goes and see who all gets them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super cool, dude. But I think I'd really, like you said, dragging it. I think dragging it around rocks for like smallies
Oh yeah,
or springtime smallies would be where it's at.
for sure. Yeah, they do a lot when you pause them too. The kind of all those legs flare up and the claws will kind of keep floating around a little bit. They usually kind of float up towards the surface while the body kind of lays down on the bottom, and so yeah, you'll notice, especially in clear water, you'll notice that you get bit 5, 6, 7 seconds into a pause rather than right away.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know people with like jig fishing where they'll fish it like ultra slow, where it's like, all right, one drag, then just let it set. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't,
can't do that too
dude,
much.
I don't always have the patience for that. It's like, all right,
It definitely works,
mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, it's like, it'll be like, I'll let it sit for like 5 seconds, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this has been forever. Another one. Yeah,
yeah,
I tend to fish probably way too fast.
yeah. I think sometimes distracting yourself on purpose will get you bit when you're fishing a soft bait. Just like really slow down. Fishing. I've gone to fish the Citizen with Jared Spofford, who works with Mike and has more experience than anybody fishing the Citizens, and they say like you can never ever ever fish them too slow, and that has got me bit a whole bunch on my home waters. It's just like slowing down, like I said, distracting myself looking at birds or checking my phone for a second, picking out a backlash, all like a real deep one, and then when you pick it up, and just when it starts moving, usually is when I get slammed right after a long pause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've heard too about fishing the Citizens. It's like, just slow roll it.
Slow is better. Yeah.
It's not always my favorite thing to do, so I don't know. Yeah, you
Once
gotta
you start,
distract
once you
yourself.
get a good day on it, it's so hard to kind of go back on. Like it's hard to turn your back on a technique like that when you just get hammered. But for me, I have my PB fish on the Citizen, and so I know like yeah, once that happened, I just have all the confidence in the world to slow down when I need to.
hmm
I'm not great at it, but I definitely can if I know that that's what the fish are doing.
hmm Well, it's like the same for me. Like all of my bigger fish have come on soft plastics, either like Texas rigging or uh, when I first started swim bait fishing, one of like the bass that kind of hooked me on swim bait fishing was a Savage Gear pulse tail trout. You know, the six
Okay.
inch one,
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, it's a soft bait, and it hammered it, and yeah, I don't know. I just got a lot of confidence in like soft swim baits.
For sure.
Um, but glide bait fishing is so addicting. Just watching, and then you see the follows and stuff like that. And like up here in the Midwest, I don't think it's definitely not spoiled yet. You know, where some of those other places like Texas or California, where it's more popular, you know, those fish kind of get burned on that.
Right. Yeah, they do. But yeah, it's kind of like a cycle where no one's getting bit on a glide anymore because they wise up so hard that you can then like keep fishing a glide really hard sometimes, and the fish forget about it a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of a never-ending cycle.
For sure, dude. Well, we'll kind of wrap things up. We don't. I try to keep it like this, like a
Yeah.
manageable length.
Yeah.
So
No, I get you.
yeah, because
Yeah,
otherwise,
people fade out after like an hour, hour and a half. That's like the whole attention span thing that we all hear about nowadays.
yeah, and I don't like taking up people's time too much, you know, because I already appreciate them making time to do this. Um, but yeah, just like when it gets like really long as well, the freaking amount of time it takes to like export shit is crazy.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, well,
Well, no, cool, man. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
no, dude,
If
it's sweet.
if anyone wants to check out the stuff, I'll just drop kind of the names of everything real quick. So the Instagram is Cavetown Baits, no spaces, dots, underscores, anything like that. The website is also just cavetownbaits.com. Facebook is Cavetown Space Baits. Cavetown is all one word. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Feel free and shoot me a message if you guys have any questions. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, Wyatt. Uh, Really cool, kind of getting to see what the other guys you've had on had to say. So yeah, I think it's cool what you're doing.
hmm Yeah, no, this was great, and it was awesome to. I don't know, your stuff is just so unique that I just had to have you on because you're kind of innovating the space right now with what you got going on. I feel like.
Thanks, man. No, I really appreciate it. Trying to only do new things. Don't need to create my own version of anything that's been done.